Hi, everybody. Welcome to the True Texas Real Estate Podcast, where we are going to talk about buying and selling real estate in Texas. I am Merrily Brown, your co-host from Mpire Financial. I want to introduce my other wonderful co-host, Linda Zimmerhanzel from Zest Realty.
Hey, Merrily, thanks so much. You know, one of the very big issues in real estate right now is housing affordability. So we really wanted to touch on a very, very good option for folks that are having a harder time maybe getting approved or affording a single family home, just a traditional single family home. So you've invited a wonderful guest to talk about buying a manufactured home in the state of Texas, which can be very tricky. So we need her expertise.
Well, I'd like to introduce to you Carolyn Walker. She is a realtor extraordinaire. We've been working together probably about, 3-4 years. I can't remember when we did our first one, but we ended up meeting because of a manufactured home. I believe it was one of Linda's agents in her brokerage that had the buyer and bought one of the homes that you were listing, right? Do you remember that?
Yes, absolutely. It was. And actually, they ended up not buying that one, but coming back about 2 months later and buying a different one. So yeah, it was. Yeah.
That's right. So as a mortgage broker, when you and I worked on that before, I was with a mortgage banker, and I had just been taught avoid manufactured homes at all cost, and especially single wide. And you and I just closed on a deal just a few weeks ago, and it was not only a single wide manufactured home, it was an FHA, which I have been told to run as fast as you can away from those deals. But it ended up being one of the easiest, just clear-cut deals that I have ever done. And now, because of you, I'm not scared to do manufactured homes. I probably still should be, but I know that you have a lot of expertise in that area. And that's why Linda and I were wanting to bring you on and talk about manufactured homes. Again, it seems like, in my opinion, it's the only affordable homes that we have here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been in the business.
So I'm currently a realtor at South Roots Realty, and I have been in the business about 9 years. When this oil field crashed about 9 years ago for the third time in my marriage, I decided it was time to go to work because I'd always been a stay-at-home mom. And so I chose to get into real estate. And so here I am, lots of manufactured home deals later.
How many manufactured homes have you think you've closed, Carolyn?
Oh gosh. I mean, on average, I was doing about 8 to 10 a year.
That's a lot.
For probably the last 4 years, I've averaged about that. One of my main client/investors, that's what he does. He finds lots, unrestricted lots that allow mobile home or with, limited restrictions, and places new homes on there. And so that's kind of, that's been our forte. We've kind of taken it and run with it. So I'd say probably in my 9 years, I've probably closed at least, I would say, 50 or 60 for sure. So a lot, quite a few.
Fantastic. I mean, with that kind of experience, can you tell us how much, is it easier now than it was 9 years ago to do them?
Absolutely.
Expound on that a little bit, if you would.
So I think a lot of it, and I think Merrily touched on it a lot, that people were afraid, but they realized it's really not that difficult. Kind of the same thing when barn dominiums came into play, that it was hard to find comps, or the banks wouldn't lend on them because they're not,
traditional.
That area, it's not traditional. And so I think now, because of interest rates and those types of things, it is more affordable, and I think they are built so much better now that people are not afraid to purchase them. And I think I was always told when I got in the business that manufactured homes don't increase in value; they always lose value, and that's not true. I mean, my parents purchased a home back in 2015 They paid about $212,000 for it, and we closed it last year for $380,000. So it, I think that has a lot to do with it. People are not afraid, and they're just more affordable. So
I need to stop quoting that then. I mean, I've obviously been misinformed because I thought that they went down in value, but there's a perfect example.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
go ahead.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I was told the same thing when I started 10 years ago. And I kind of discourage clients from doing that. But over the years, I've seen, my clients have made money every time they've sold a manufactured home. So again, I think it's a different time.
Absolutely.
Well, Carolyn, tell us about the deal that we just closed. That was the single wide manufactured home. Were you the listing agent on that deal as well? I was.
And prior to that one, I was also the listing and buyer's agent or intermediary on that one as well. So I've sold that one 4 times in the last 4 transactions. We'll say that. So it was a small single wide, less than 1,000 square feet on a couple of acres in Wilson County. And it was, it's luckily for my clients has been very well kept, beautiful little piece of property. And we had 0 hiccups with that property. The only thing that took a little time was to get that engineer report for the retrofit. But other than that, it was probably the easiest deal maybe I've ever done, truthfully. So
I want to take a couple steps back, because we can't assume that everybody's going to know what we know, having closed these before, right? So can you explain a little bit, maybe, Carolyn, about the difference between a single wide and a double wide, triple wide, and the challenges maybe of each one first, and then maybe go into what's very important if you're taking clients to go look at a manufactured home and consider it.
Sure, absolutely. So obviously a single wide is just one piece. It only has one serial number, just one, typically a 16 by something, 70 or whatever. Double wide has 2 pieces, triple wide 3, and so on and so forth. So those homes have, a double wide, for example, has 2 serial numbers. And the most important part, I find myself, and it's not always the case, but typically buyers for manufactured homes are FHA buyers for the most part. I would say 90%, FHA or VA buyers, meaning then you have to have, there's certain stipulations. It can't, for some lenders, it can't have been moved.
On FHA, it has to be an original move, but VA, it can have moved once.
Correct. Yes. And then, so the retrofit, the engineer report, and then real property, those are, going from personal property to real property. Those are kind of the big main things to look at whenever you're taking clients to look at mobile homes or manufactured homes.
The retrofit, I think that scares some people, sellers and buyers. Can you talk about some of the costs associated and how hard it is, and what it's not an arduous process, but I think maybe can you dispel some of the myths there?
Yeah. What is a retrofit?
So a retrofit is where basically the tongue of the mobile home is removed. The wheels are taking off per se. It's a plate is put down. It's welded and tied down, so it becomes affixed to the property. So in the eyes of the Federal Housing Authority or VA, something like that, it's a permanent fixture on the property. So then it becomes, it's filed with Texas Department of Housing, and it becomes real property. And it's basically then treated just like a site-built home, And
what's the cost of that?
The cost of that, so I have, it can vary. There's multiple different companies out there. The most recent ones that I've done, and I've done about 4 in the last 2 months, $2,600. $2,000, about $2,200 for the retrofit, about $400 for the engineer report. It's a very simple process. They go out there and do that. They provide you the documentation, the photos, and that. It's a very simple process. It takes them a couple hours to get out there and get that done. So
Now, what if you're at a listing appointment and the owner of the manufactured home doesn't know if it's been retrofitted? What's your advice to the agent and to the owner or the seller then?
So there's a lot of Gulf Techs. George is who I use for mine. They will go out and do an inspection on it and let you know if it, and I have had them come back and say, Carolyn, this home is retrofitted. All you need is an engineer report. So you just have to find somebody trustworthy. George Gertz, Gulf Techs, someone like that is who I use in this area, and they'll go out and do an inspection on it, let you know if it needs the retrofit. If it doesn't, just get you an engineer report. They can order that for you, provide the documentation to the engineer, and just kind of go from there.
So there's no statewide list or anything that they could check to find out?
To be quite honest with you, I don't know about that. That's a good question. I'm unaware if there is a statewide list, but that's a possibility. That's something I should probably check on.
Great. We'll definitely all check on that. So seems like it might be, if they have to go through TDH, maybe it does tell somewhere. It certainly would be one less step you'd have to take, right? Yep. To be able to list the property, which would be awesome. So we kind of go back to who the buyers are for these houses, right? I mean, I know some people, and touching on the lender aspect, maybe how hard is it to find a lender? Merrily touched on that, to be able to underwrite a manufactured home loan. How hard is that?
I truthfully have only ever experienced one lender that wasn't able to do it. However, Merrily is always my go-to, so I kind of limit myself when it comes to that. But I think, just like we've learned and we've grown with that part of the business, I think most lenders have as well. But I can tell you this, I had another, on this last deal that I just did with Merrily, he had been pre-approved with another company, and they were quoting him, I really want to say it was like 12 to 17% on his interest. Yeah. Good credit score, these types of things. So I said, listen, we've got to call Merrily. I need her to run the numbers and see. Merrily, what did we end up closing that one? Like half of that.
Oh yeah. I don't remember. I'm guessing around, 7% or something. I mean, maybe lower. So, might have been in the sixes, because it was FHA.
So good rule of thumb, shop around for sure.
Shop around. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Great. So I have a question because, when my very first, I think it was my very first manufactured home listing, and it had been added on to, right? And I was told over and over by, many lenders, oh, if it's been added on to, they built a room on, right? We can't do it. And I did get that one closed. I found a miracle lender who got it closed, and we moved on down the road. But I tell you, how hard is it now? A lot of people add on to these homes.
They do. I just recently went through one. Well, I say recent, it's been in the last 2 years. I just had an engineer come out. They said the integrity of the home had not been, hadn't been messed with. The home was fine. It was structurally sound. The add-on did nothing, and we moved forward. It was fine.
Fantastic. So it's not an insurmountable issue. Yeah.
No, that's not any longer.
I think what made it so great for you and I is you walked in with, you'd already ordered the engineer's report. I mean, you knew he was going to go FHA. You said, I've already ordered the engineer's report. You were ready to order the appraisal. I think we had to wait on the engineer's report to get it to the appraiser, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was kind of, a little bit of a delay, but you were so proactive and all the things that, it's like you had this checklist, of here's what you need to do. And maybe it wasn't a very long checklist, but you just had it all completely done and new. I mean, it was flawless. And I've done manufactured homes prior to, and I'll be honest with you, they go flawless when they're with you. And I mean, you just, nobody wants to be the queen of the trailer park, but
honestly, whenever we get a referral or a phone call that comes into the office, and it's a manufactured home, they're like, I'll just send it to Carolyn. I'm like, oh, thanks, but I'll take it. I'll take it all day long, because that is what has helped me to be knowledgeable.
Well, those homes that we first met on, matter of fact, I think, Linda, you did the sale of that one client out. It was Vernia, right? Yeah. You were the listing agent when he bought it he was the one that, it fell through. Then he ended up buying, and then he sold, and you were the listing agent on selling it. That was one of those that they were like, we considered them new construction, because they had never been lived in. Your investor had moved them out onto these plots, had them, they were permanently fixed. You had everything all like lined up and ready to go to purchase without, did you even like go ahead and order the engineer's report ahead of time on these? What was your process?
Yes. Are you talking to me or to Linda?
Yeah, no, to you.
Yes.
To you, Carolyn.
So yes, the process for me, when we have those installed, we go and we actually, we don't usually do a pre-inspection, but we do a walkthrough with the company that comes in and sets it up. We have them retrofitted. We have the engineer report ready to go. Same with the septic, have the septic installed, because that's another big thing too, is that typically when you have a manufactured home, you're going to be on a septic system, 9 times out of 10. So have that septic system installed and all of those things, and just, have it ready to go.
What about condition? How much, outside of obviously the retrofit, but how much does condition weigh into your ability to be able to sell a manufactured home? You see the older ones, condition and age. Let's put them both together.
It's a huge factor, because as we all know, like I said, most buyers are going to be your FHA or VA buyers. And when the appraiser comes out to do their inspection, it's got to be in good shape. It has to have, the paint has to be complete, no rotting wood, all of those types of things that go into a play in a normal site built home. The condition's very important. Now, I have sold some that are a little more, they're a little worse condition, but it's had to go conventional because it wouldn't qualify for FHA, which happens, so.
And age, what does that play in?
I'm going to be completely honest. Folks have always told me, I know that banks won't lend on manufactured homes if they're over a certain age. And I have never, ever run into a problem that age has been a factor. Now, I think the oldest one, and I've sold some pretty old ones. I was trying to think, maybe a 92 model, which is, that's pretty old, Yeah. And I feel like it was yesterday, but I say that when someone says 1992, I'm like, oh, 10 years ago, but it is not 10 years ago. I don't know what the age limitations are, if I'm being completely honest, because I've never run into an issue with it.
Merrily, do you know?
So I know FHA does have some guidelines, but I believe it's, I guess I need to look that up because I don't remember, but it seems like it was like 1987 or something. Anything prior to, they wouldn't lend on. But, when I was in the banking world, they were saying, well, if it's older than 5 years, forget it, run, because they said it was in too bad a condition. And really what I've noticed is it's all dependent on the appraisal and what the FHA appraiser or the VA appraiser states the condition of the house. Like this one that we just did, I think it was fairly old, but it was in just pristine condition. And, the appraisal turned out clean. The engineer's report turned out clean, and it was a good deal. So
yeah, I just looked it up. June 15th, 1976. Anything built after that has to be rejected per HUD. So
great. That's good information.
76, 87,
Yeah. Well, a challenge is to find one that's still standing older than that.
Yeah.
But so what about the insurance? That's a big factor, and especially right now, and it's a hard market for insurance. Even single family homes are having a hard time, right? So talk about the insurance angle. Are they more expensive to insure these? What are people looking at?
It's truly not much. There's not much more of but I always say that whenever I have something in a floodplain as well, I'm like an extra $100 a month, it's not. Manufactured homes honestly have become and especially if they're real property. My clients are not, in my experience, we have not seen like a spike or too much of a difference on insurance for manufactured homes.
Great. So it's just dependent upon area, the same thing as,
Right.
and size and all that replacement cost. Gotcha. Well, that's great to know. So have you noticed, I mean, I know you represent so many buying and selling, but have you noticed more coming on the market? Have you noticed an increase in the availability of manufactured homes or the demand for them?
So I was actually just doing a little research in the Canyon Lake area out there, and I do see a lot more in that area coming on the market. Out here in Wilson County, we're out of space. There is no room. There's no unrestricted property really left to buy. I do see the demand for them with interest rates being higher. A lot of first-time home buyers, folks retiring, they can't afford that big mortgage, and so manufactured the demand for them is much higher right now, for sure.
So maybe the biggest challenge in that manufactured home market is just finding the lot. I mean, that's been a challenge a long time, right? I mean, I talked to a manufactured home builder, maybe 7 years ago, and he was saying, "Oh, if you find unrestricted lots or lots that that you can put it in manufactured home, let us know." Right? So it's still tight. Is it still tight out there?
It is still tight out here. It absolutely is, and so even I have my same investor client that I do a lot of work with. He purchased 5 acres in it's Guadalupe County, and he thought, "Oh, I'm going to subdivide it. I'm going to put 5 houses out there." Well, it didn't work that way. They had guidelines. You can put 2 homes. We'll split 2.5 and 2.5, but that's all we'll do. And so I think you're seeing the counties tighten up a little bit, and you're seeing developers, they're putting those stipulations, no manufacturers, that sort of thing. So
yeah, so you touched on this, but I want you to be a little more specific, because we occasionally will see people attempting to sell just the manufactured home and not the lot. And you touched on real property. Can you explain that? We can't in the state of Texas do that, right? Just
correct. We can sell in the state of Texas. We can sell 1 mobile home without a TDHCA license in a 12-month period. So it has to be affixed to the property or made real property at the end of the sale, or you have to hold a TDHCA license. That is correct.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that. So thank you.
A lot.
Well, explain that a little bit. What is the difference between, I mean, is it sort of like you're buying a car or an RV and you have to turn it into real property then as a house? Is that
right? Right. So when you purchase a manufactured home in Texas, you get a title, just like if you're buying a car or an RV. And so when you put it on the property, have it retrofitted, then file with TDHCA to have it as real property, it becomes a home. It's no longer a manufactured home. You surrender that title to the Texas, and it's permanently affixed to the land. If it's not, and you have it on the property and you don't have it as real property, you're taxed separately. There's 2 different tax ID numbers, and yeah, it's basically personal property.
so? When is the time? Because I feel like the several that we did with you, a couple of them were already converted to real. Some of them weren't, and we did it after closing. We had to go submit it to the state to get it transferred into real property. When is it that you do that? Is it usually before, or is it at the time of the first sale?
It kind of depends. A lot of the time. So I just recently had another deal where my clients purchased this property back in 1982. They paid cash for it in 1982. So they never had it converted to real property. It has been personal property until we just closed it. So we closed it as a VA loan, and the VA required then for it to become real property. So at that time, when you close, then you convert it. So there's no, if you don't have a loan on it, a lot of people just don't know, or they just don't do it. So.
Well, that's all good information. So do you expect, I mean, and I know a lot of my clients will ask me this now, is, there is concern about that we already discussed, how manufactured homes, retain their value, but also, we see their value growing. Do you, over your time, can you like give us a general range of how much you think per year a manufactured home increases in value? If a client came to ask you, well, I mean, what can I expect, right? And of course, it depends on market conditions, but not in the COVID market, in the regular market, right?
Right, exactly. I really don't know, to be quite honest with you. I typically see anywhere from maybe 2 to 4% per year. In a normal market, I would say that. And I honestly,
and that's the right direction, right? That's the right trend. And that's what they're predicting for the market in general, in our MSA basically, for this coming year. So it's maybe in line, perhaps a little, under, what a single family home, but it's still going in the right direction.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. What other tips can you give your colleagues that are going to list or buy manufactured homes that no one else but an expert would be able to give them?
I mean, honestly, the biggest thing is to make sure that the retrofit, get that taken care of in the beginning, so you're not waiting like I was, even though I ordered it prior. The engineer just had a couple of family issues, life issues, I guess, that he was unable to, lost his phone, couldn't contact us, that type of thing. So it was a delay, but making sure it's retrofit, make sure your clients understand what that means. And they, typically it's going to be their cost. And then honestly, in my opinion, just making sure it's ready. No rotted wood, those type of things. Have it ready for a VA or an FHA buyer, because those are typically the folks in the market for a manufactured home.
Absolutely. That's great advice, Carolyn.
Well, this is wonderful. Thanks so much. Everybody, we're going to have links in the description on how you can get in touch with Carolyn. If you're, maybe you have a manufactured home that you want the expert to come and sell your house, we'll get you in touch with Carolyn. You can always go to truetexas.com, where you can find Linda and myself there as well. And we really appreciate you, Carolyn. I just adore working with you. So here's to many more. You've made me not afraid of manufactured homes, and I just love you for that. So
thank you. Likewise, I thoroughly enjoy working with you as well.
Great.
Thank you so much, Carolyn, for your time and sharing the tips that are going to help a lot of people.
Thank you so much. And it was great meeting you.